Hello, this is Mr. Frank, and welcome to our learning target, subtracting fractions and mixed numbers with non-common denominators. So let's get started. So when we're subtracting fractions with different denominators, we need to get a common denominator first. And the way we do that is we find an equivalent fraction where the denominators can have the least common multiple. So if you remember, we need to get our denominators to be the same, and to find a common multiple, we can say, well, multiples of 8 are 8, 16, 24, and you could list them out. Multiples of 3 would be 3, 6, 9, etc. Now I know that a least common multiple is going to be 24 here. If you're ever not sure, you can always multiply the two denominators together to get a common denominator. It might not be the least common denominator, but it'll still get the job done. So if I want to change my denominators to 24, for the fraction on the left side here, I need to multiply it by 3 over 3. And I'm allowed to do this because the value of this is still equal to 1, because 3 over 3 equals 1. And any number times 1 is still the same value. We're not changing that value. And on this side of the equation, I'm going to multiply it by 8 over 8. So when I do that, I get 21 over 24. So I did that by 3 times 7 is 21. 3 times 8 is 24. And then I get 16 over 24 on this side. I'm still subtracting. And now, since I have the same denominator, I can just subtract my numerators. And I have 21 minus 16. If you like to make this add the opposite, you can do that. So I'm adding the opposite. I get 21 plus negative 16. And that would give me 5 over 24. And then you simplify if necessary. This is already in simplified form, so we don't need to simplify it further. So let's practice over here. We've got 5/6 minus 1/10. We need to find a common denominator. So I know my least common multiple here is going to be 30. But if you're not sure, you could have used 60. It wouldn't be the least common multiple, but you can multiply these two together. But to get to 30, I'm going to need to multiply the left side by 5 over 5 and the right side by 3 over 3. I do that multiplication to find my equivalent fractions, and I have 25 over 30 minus 3 over 30. I keep my denominator the same, and I subtract my numerators. If you want to do add the opposite, we would make that addition, and that would become its opposite. So I have 25 plus negative 3. That's 22 over 30. Now let's look at the last step. Simplify. Yeah, I could simplify this. I could take a 2 out of this and a 2 out of this. So let's do that. We need to reduce this, and we would get 11 over 15. By taking a 2 out of each of the numerator and the denominator. And that's our answer. So I want you to do this next one, 4 over 7 minus 1 over 3, and then come back and we'll go over it. All right, let's see how you did. So we need to find a common denominator. So 7 and 3, we could think about our least common multiple, and that would be 21. So I'm going to multiply the left side here by 3 over 3, and the right side here, you should have multiplied by 7 over 7. And I find my equivalent fractions. So I get 12. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 7 is 21. 12 over 21 minus 7 times 1 is 7. And 7 times 3 is 21. So now I can do my subtraction and keep the denominator the same. 12 minus 7, or you could have done 12 plus negative 7, but you would get 5 over 21. You keep the denominator the same when you subtract fractions. And look at that. That's already simplified, so I don't need to do anything. I hope you got that right. If not, maybe go back and watch the previous slide. All right, so now we're going to subtract mixed numbers with different denominators. So we've got mixed numbers here. Right? That's where you have a whole number and I shouldn't say a whole number, an integer and a fraction. So we need to find a common denominator for 8 and 3, keeping the numbers whole, and that's keeping the whole numbers rather. That's what we did here. So you can see I kept the 2, and I subtract 1 and 2/3. I kept the 1 here. So I'm just finding an equivalent fraction right now of this fraction. I have not changed this to an improper fraction. So I need to find a common denominator. I have 8 and 3, and my common denominator is going to be 24. So I'm going to convert this to 7/8 to 21 over 24 by multiplying it by 3 over 3. And here I convert 2/3 to 16 over 24. And I did that by multiplying it by 8 over 8. Now, I'm going to give you two methods. There's a method that you can do that's easier if the first numerator, right here, the first numerator is greater than the second numerator. If that's the case, then subtract the whole numbers and then subtract the numerators. So in this case, I could subtract 2 minus 1, and I get 1. And I can subtract 21 minus 16, and I get 5. And I'm going to keep that denominator. So I have 1 and 5/24. So you see I subtracted my whole numbers, and I subtracted my numerators, and I kept the denominator the same. Now, you're not always going to have the first number be greater than the second number. And in that case, you're going to need to use the traditional method, which is changing them to improper fractions and then subtracting. So let's change these to improper fractions. I know we've been doing that the last few days. We have 24 times 2 to 48 plus 21. So that's going to be 69 over 24 minus 24 times 1 plus 16. That's 40 over 24. So now I can subtract my numerators. My denominator stays the same. And I have 69 minus 40 is 29 over 24. Now I need to change this back into a mixed number. So how many times does 24 go into 29? So that's 1. And there would be 5 left over. So I'd end with 1 and 5 over 24. Now notice these answers are the same, and they should be because we did the same problem. We just did it two different ways. So now I want you to get some practice. So do these and come on back. All right, welcome back. Let's see how you did. So first we need to find common denominators, right? Look right here. Find the common denominator. So what's a common denominator of 12 and 8 going to be? I hope you chose 24 because that's the lowest common denominator. And if you do that, right now what I'm doing is I'm keeping my whole numbers here. I've got, I'm going to find a common denominator for this fraction and this fraction using 24. So I multiply 5/12 by 2 over 2. So I have 12 and 10/24. And now I'm doing this, I already put this in plus negative. I've already added the opposite. And I'm changing this fraction, so I have a denominator of 24. So I multiply this by 3 over 3, and I get 9 over 24. Now, the test was, if the first numerator is bigger than the second numerator, subtract the whole numbers, subtract the numerators. So we can do that. 12 minus 3 is 9, and 10 minus 9 is 1, and you keep the denominator. 9 and 1/24. I hope you got that. Now let's try this other one. So first we need to find a common denominator, and you should have found 12, and your equivalent fraction should have been 2/12, and for 3/4 your equivalent fraction should have been 9/12. I've kept the whole numbers the same. 6 and 6, 8 and 8. Now, our first numerator is not bigger than my second numerator, so now I need to turn them into improper fractions. So let's do that. So I have 12 times 8. You can use a calculator if you need it. That's 96 plus 2. So I'm going to have 98 over 12. Then I'm going to add the opposite. And I do to find the improper fraction. I've got 12 times 6. And then plus 9, I get 81. So minus 81. So 98 plus negative 81. So I could think about my different methods, number line, good guy, bad guy, temperature model. I would get 17 over 12. Now we need to simplify that. We need to make that into a mixed number. How many times does 12 go into 17? Well, that's 1, and there would be 5/12 left over. So that's our answer. So I want you to do these three on your own and bring them back to class. So good luck doing them. If you have trouble, just rewind the video and watch the last few slides. All right, welcome back. I hope you did well with that. We'll review them in class tomorrow. So before you leave, please answer these two questions I learned or was reminded of, and questions that I have are. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day, and I'll see you in school.